Okay, here we go. There we go.
I totally forgot about it. So when I teach, I can show this muscle and I push a little bit down, then I weaken the muscle and I push down and see what's going on, and then I strengthen the muscle again and it's strong. So how do I do that then when I hold here, push down, here, push down? Normally you put it in pause lock, but in Touch for Health 1 you don't have a pause, right? So how do we do that then?
Well, what I understand is if you go from here to here, as long as you go from here straight to here, it already has the signal.
Oh, okay.
So you don't need a pause lock, but if you were going to stack a whole bunch of information in, then you would need a pause lock.
Yeah, but in Touch for Health 1, you cannot work with the pause lock, right? It's not possible. You need to fix as you go.
So you just need a, in that case. Okay. So what I would do for the first indicator muscle would be to stand in the feet and see what it feels like to stand in the feet. And then touching the point, see if you stay secure in your feet or if you start to move.
Okay.
That would tell us
yeah,
something not quite working the way we want. Do we want to go through the switches that way and then see what it feels like for everybody to turn them on and secure in the foot? And then we can try it. Then we can travel with time and we can undo all of that and try it with the arm. Do you want to do that? Okay. So if you find where you're comfortable in your feet and notice what it feels like to be standing there. I'm laughing because having spent the time at the beach, my feet feel really good, which is unusual. Because usually as I stand here and it's like, oh, I can feel all the pressure points, but I can't. It's just flat and it just feels really nice. So you're here. Now what we want to do is check and find out if the switches are engaged in what we're doing and are contributing to how we feel, or if they're going to take some energy away. So if we touch the top of the lip and just see if the body sways in any way, okay, or if it just holds solid, okay, and then you can just keep track of which ones move for you. So if we go to the bottom lip, all right, then if we go to our K27s, and since you both know where that is, I'm just going to go to the point. So holding on to that on one side and then on the other side. So that's where I'm going to go. And then the last one is to go to the tailbone. Okay. So the body sway, which I know is not in Touch for Health original context, at least gives us an awareness of how we're feeling. So we know which ones were off. So now if we go to using our arm, if you take two fingers with a tiny bit of pressure and you just hold the weight of the fingers into the arm and let them fall away, and then notice what it feels like when it can hold there. And if we do the same kind of activity as we just did, so you know what it feels like to hold it, then if you go top of the lip and see if that holds, bottom of the lip, see if that holds, K27, K27, and the tailbone. So, did everybody get the same result?
No, I had another video.
You had which one, Helga?
My tailbone, when I was swaying, my tailbone, I went backwards by my tailbone, and now with the muscle test, I was really strong.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I can do it again.
Yep.
Yeah, and now just standing. And I'm going backward.
Okay. And what if you use pause lock with the arm? What happens? So you're going to touch the tailbone,
Yeah.
put it in pause lock.
Mm-hmm.
So feet are together,
Yeah, then it goes down.
then it
The
goes.
top of my arm goes down.
Ah,
That's interesting.
Colleen, how about for you?
Under the nose and tailbone both.
Okay, and was it
Left.
the same whether you used the body pendulum or whether you used the anterior deltoid?
Nope. With the anterior deltoid, the tailbone was solid. Or was stable. Just pendulum was the lip and tailbone.
Interesting.
Interesting, no?
How about for you, Adele?
So were we just doing the arm? Because for me, they were all strong with the arm for that
Okay.
one. Were
And what
we
about-
doing leg?
And with the body sway, what happened?
Okay, I did test that one.
Okay. And I see Tanya's popped on. So I'm not sure when, Tanya, you came in. So if you
I
missed the
just
first part,
joined.
that's okay.
I just came in and I'm just eating supper, so I'll join in soon.
Okay, no worries. Any feedback too while you're listening is totally great too. So Helga, on Saturday mornings, she always has the window and the clouds, and we have all kinds of things happen with the clouds behind her while we're doing
Wow.
class. What did you find, Adele?
Yeah, I swayed for the tailbone one. I swayed backwards.
So we all moved on the tailbone with the body sway.
Yes.
Okay.
You too?
I did too, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so
I wonder if we're influenced by what you were doing, because I almost like watching you put your fingers on the deltoid, and then when your tailbone's like, right? It's that mimicking. I didn't,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, if you want to go back and try it again. It's slow, but it's there.
Not watch you.
Still the same for you, Helga?
Yes. Everything is the same. And I did it with the pause lock again. And then the tailbone tested not strong with the pause lock.
So, and we may make a bigger can of worms. Anterior
Maybe.
deltoid is part of gallbladder.
The tailbone is governing, right? Or what do you say?
Yeah, but anterior deltoid is part of gallbladder.
Right.
So what would happen if teres major? That's not like it's an easy muscle to do, right?
What is with the subscapularis? That's easy. Or teres major, yeah.
Just thinking about what Denise said about just seeing what does it feel like to move it.
Right.
Touch the tailbone. So if we go and fix it, then we could see if that range is a little bit different.
Right. But I don't want to fix it now. I just want to test more.
Yep. Okay, and if we did supraspinatus, so you'd be out here. So rather than anterior deltoid, you have your arms out, and then you would be taking one hand across, and just that light finger touch to bring it in, or if it holds, and if you find that tailbone, that's gonna go.
It's the same. With the pause lock, it's the same. And I don't want to adjust my tailbone because then I cannot test more, right? That's really strange. Look here, when I sway and I touch, I really go back. I do the supraspinatus. Touch. It's strong. Put the supraspinatus into pause lock and test, and it's weak.
When you go to do pause lock, if you close the feet, touch the tailbone, and then open.
Okay, I can do that.
So you're not touching your arm. Don't touch your arm. Your feet are together. Touch your tailbone. Open the feet.
And touch the arm. It goes away. I did it before. I just showed you very short now. Yeah. It's so
Okay. Well, let's try. Usually we do, it is the tailbone. Let's try the opposite end, which would be the top of the lip.
It was weak when I was swaying. So let me see. Oh, okay. So supraspinatus is not strong. Was it strong? It is not strong. And the endpoint of the governing was weak the first time. When I sway, it was weak.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
supraspinatus is test weak. And gallbladder test strong. Anterior deltoid test strong. That is a can of worm what we have now here.
So Colleen and Adele, if the instructions for using anterior deltoid, you both ended up in the right position from what I can see online, and that light fingertip. I guess if somebody didn't know Touch for Health, we might have had to dive in a little bit more instruction, but was it okay to muscle monitor that way?
It was.
Okay. Anything for you, Adele?
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah. I just do a very light touch, like a barely, like very little pressure.
So then it's that awareness of that change, that lightness, but then that would be experience, right?
Yes. So when I learned Touch for Health decades ago in Europe or in Germany, it was way stronger, the touch. It was really, you needed to feel it. It was the muscle which you tested, the strength of the muscle and not the energy of the muscle. That I learned here in Canada, that we test the energy of the muscle with a very light touch. I can do both. My students in the past, they had always a very strong touch, and I had a scale that they needed with 2 fingers to see how much 2 pounds is, and they were always amazed how little touch or how little pressure they needed to use. Yeah. If I teach online, sorry, I'm talking so much now.
No, that's good.
If I teach online, I need to ask them if they have a scale that they can put 2 fingers on a scale, right? That they can feel the pressure. Otherwise, they are lost. And that is what I think, that maybe a lot of students are lost because I am not there in person to correct them immediately, that I can test. When I taught in class, they always tested on me how much pressure they use. No, I tested them on myself, how much pressure they use, and then I corrected them. That is by online teaching not possible. So I need to talk way more, and I need to observe way more what they are doing, right?
See, and I would say the other way, I would say you need to give enough space for them to experience it. And because we're not muscle testing, we're muscle monitoring, it's the lightness of the touch. That's developing awareness. And what I've found is when people have played with the body pendulum and they can feel that sway, very often, if I go to do a muscle, doesn't matter what muscle, the body sway will be engaged as well.
Okay.
Which is a great way to develop awareness because you immediately notice when you're off balance and when you're on balance.
That's a good way. Did you teach it in your classes too this way when you taught Touch for Health? No.
Because I didn't know that at the time. Well, we didn't need to because we were in person.
Right.
However, Chi integration, Tanya, you might be able to speak to this because we did a few in-house stuff. Because we went back and forth between the body sway and muscle monitoring. You might have some feedback on that.
I'm not clear about your question.
Building awareness. Does the body pendulum help you build awareness for that lightness of touch to understand when different muscles are going to be used, when you'll know that there's not going to be integrity there?
Yes. I've used muscle testing with my finger, body pendulum, and the regular anterior deltoid. It's funny because my friend was visiting on the weekend, and she used to be a straight arrow, and then she broke her wrist, and she's been working with someone who puts stones on her body and then figures out where the source of the issue is and then traces it back and works on her. And so I showed her friend the body pendulum because her friend has a skin issue, for her to try different creams before she buys them. And my friend said, "Oh, I just muscle test my arm," and she put out her arm and she pushed on, and I was laughing so hard I almost dropped my purse. Because I can't imagine being in a store and putting my arm out and seeing if it holds or not. But she said her husband does it for her. And I'm like, well, why don't you just do the body pendulum? And she gave me this weird look. And so there I am in the Cove teaching them the body pendulum in the Cove gift shop. And it's funny because the cream she tried, my friend's friend, she tried it and she said her body said it was fine. But I said, "Did you want to try this other cream that I know about?" And I read the ingredients, and she says, "There's no point because I can't do argan oil." And it was just funny because I thought, well, you could ask your body, but never mind. So I don't know. I think awareness is on so many levels, right? I mean, I find the anterior deltoid difficult to do on myself. So I would probably muscle test my finger, touch the muscle and muscle test my finger, and maybe it wouldn't work. I don't know. It's been a while since I did a self-assessment.
Did
Have I
you,
answered your
like,
question?
How do you do it with your finger, Daniel? Like, oh yeah,
Well,
okay.
I just do it like this, and if it's holds it, and if it doesn't, it goes. But I've
Right.
done it so often, right? I think it's harder to, usually if I teach someone that, I teach it that they do it like this, right? It's harder to show holding my hand, but
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
I find it easier to teach it that way. The body pendulum, I must say, does freak my students out. Because it's usually always right. So much so that I taught one of my candidates it, and she says, no, I'll just talk it out. I don't want to know. And I'm like, just stand up and ask your body if you should do this or not. And she goes, no, let's just talk it out. And I was laughing. I thought it was funny. Because there's awareness, and we don't always want awareness.
Hmm.
Or we're not like, because it's a shortcut, right? In some ways.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I use it for where to plant plants in my garden.
Using the body pendulum or using the deltoid?
The body pendulum.
Body pendulum.
I'll walk around and say, where do you want to go? And it'll tell me, and I'm like, are you sure? And it goes, yep. I'm like, all right, I wouldn't go there, but fine. So I
Okay.
read companion gardening, and then I do the body pendulum.
Okay. So in-person class, anterior deltoid is chosen because it's nice and easy. But it was just chosen because it's nice and easy. So then what are the other ways that we can have awareness? Is there a different muscle that would be better as an indicator muscle for an online?
What I would think about would be the latissimus dorsi, because the latissimus dorsi,
Hmm?
because the people in America eat way too much sugar. And the latissimus dorsi is related to the spleen pancreas. So this muscle is often not strong in my experience. And I think people can easily when you are standing, you know the movement, right? So, and then people can I need to do this. Can easily try to get the arm away from the body or not. So when I touch here, again, tailbone is moving. The same. So the upper one was weak and the tailbone is weak and the lower one. Oh, and the K27. Oh, too far away. The K27, and it's strong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely, you always use the body pendulum for switches.
Yeah, but when we teach Touch for Health, the body pendulum is not used. And we would need to find a muscle which we could easily work with.
Yeah. And what about the finger?
That is Touch for Health 3, I think, with the finger. This one. Touch for Health 3.
Yeah, and that would just
Problem for
be,
me is I've been doing it too long, so it's hard for me to answer because I would just go right to what works for me, right? I wouldn't,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to go back to beginner.
and the other piece is if you're thinking about how do you raise awareness for lightness of the touch, that it doesn't have integrity and it does have integrity, because that's really what we want to teach in level 1.
Mm-hmm.
is trusting the result that you get, trusting that it's released or trusting that it's holding. So one of the things about a lot of the muscles is they're difficult because teres major is tough to do. The other is if even with latissimus dorsi, you're going across the body and you're using a lot of other muscles and contracting them before you get to latissimus dorsi.
It's true. Mm.
So you're changing the test.
Yeah, that's right.
But if you use the body pendulum and you held the position of the arm or leg that you wanted to work with, I guess it's going to have to be arm because you can't use the legs if you're using a pendulum, but you could do the different, just go into the different positions and engage it and see what happens. So if you went, so let me see, supraspinatus. Let's walk through the 14 and see what we have on and off for everybody.
Okay.
And then we can go back and try it with the pendulum and see what happens. So if we,
without pendulum, just the movement.
so we're going to actually do the muscle test as if we were doing it on ourselves, just to see, so we know what's working, what's not working. So if we go supraspinatus, and then our lovely teres major.
Oh, you can, yeah. Oh. I cannot test the person about.
Yeah, I can't do that one.
Okay, we'll go as close as, so at least we know some that are on, some that are off. That's what we're looking for. So we've got our pec clavicular. And then latissimus dorsi. Heart. Okay, so that one's off for me on both. Okay, so now we've got our quad. And for me, the quad, if you lose your balance, that indicates it's off. So peroneus, pushing your toe in. It's bowed straight forward. Okay.
That works. For me, it works.
Okay, so then you have the psoas. So in the front, turned out, swinging back. Then we have gluteus medius to the side. Triple warmer, teres minor. Anterior deltoid, pectoralis major sternal, latissimus, anterior serratus, there we go. That's what I wanted to say. And then toe turning in and it's out to the corner, fascia lata. So I have a few off and a few on.
All the
My
leg ones are off.
left one's
Okay, so Colleen's, all the leg ones are off. Tanya, what did
And
you
heart.
say?
My left quad's off.
Okay. And Adele?
I think I got heart was out. And this one that you do, teres minor, major,
Teres major?
this one? yeah.
This one? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we can't do much with the legs at the moment. We have to do it a little different. But if you use the body pendulum then, and you, if you did your range of motion, and then touching where you are, and noticing if the pendulum moves, or if it just stays. Now in this case, instead of winding and going across, if we just hold it up, goes off. Goes off on one side. That's interesting. Okay, and your pec. Latissimus dorsi. Subscapularis. Okay, and then if we just have to come through with the rest of the arms.
What is that? Okay, you do all arms, okay?
And if you go to feet, you'd have to bend down to actually do your foot, unless you want to push it against a chair. Or I've seen people muscle monitor with the other foot and push it in. But if you go to the legs, if you go by how you're balancing on the other foot, so if the leg, gluteus medius is coming up, noticing what the other foot feels like, the one you're standing on, if you're losing your balance on it. And the same with the psoas. Quad. And over I go. Okay. Any awareness about different ways of knowing whether it's on or off?
Well, when I muscle tested my left quad, it was off, but by the time we get around to everything again, my balance was fine.
Good, it had corrected itself.
Yeah, which is wonderful.
So with the body pendulum, everything was strong. But I needed to yawn.
Well,
It was
strong,
my
yes.
latissimus dorsi, and when I tested, missed my hand, it was off.
Okay,
But
so
not the body pendulum. It was strong. I didn't move at all.
okay. Okay. So one of the pieces that comes up for sure is how much pressure. So if we're muscle testing, then that's when we're going for the strength of the muscle. But we don't want the strength of the muscle. We want what's happening in the system of the muscle. So that's that less than 2 pounds of pressure. And that's one piece that I think in person gets confused because I learned the same too. When you, by the time you got to the legs, it would be you have to use more pressure because it's a bigger muscle. But that's not true. It's either going to have integrity or it's not going to have integrity. So keeping it light and being able to be aware. And I think that that's the value of teaching online, because we have to develop that skill ourselves. But we don't have, this is the part that I like, we don't have a whole bunch of people in a room and their energy interfering with what we can sense. So being online gives us that little bit of that buffer to maybe build our awareness a little bit easier. That's my view anyway. Any other thoughts?
It's been a long time since I checked all my muscles. I mean, in that way.
Yeah. And we do always shortcut, don't we?
What I what I believe then with the first Touch for Health one, when I have students and I teach awareness and I have to teach myself more of awareness, it might take longer as 15 hours when I want to teach really good the student, that the student understand what I try to teach them, right?
I know that it might be Christine taught herself how to muscle monitor. It was Christine, how to muscle monitor on her finger by using a balloon. And she inflated the balloon and practiced how much pressure, it was the 2 pounds. So you could use a scale to figure that out. But then she went to the balloon so she could feel what the difference was, how much pressure. And that's how she taught herself to do the fingers. I feel like I'm swearing when I say it that way. And her touch is very well. Colleen, you've worked with Christine.
You bet.
What would you say about doing sessions with her?
Very fast. Like I couldn't keep up to what she was doing at all. So I just relaxed and enjoyed those sessions. But yeah.
So she's using quite a bit of lightness.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And the quad would still go up into lift the leg up, go into the quad position, and it would just be that light sense of touch.
Yes.
So I think part of the challenge is that transition, like you said, Helga. They went from chiropractic muscle testing to energetic muscle monitoring.
Right.
Mm.
And they didn't really describe the difference between the two. There was just this, all of a sudden, this kind of this shift that happened. And some of it traveled over and some of it stayed still like a test because it was in the legs. What I know from shock absorbers, so this is one we do in Chi integration. So the shock absorber, you're testing with the psoas muscle. So you need to know that you have the integrity of the muscle before you do it. Then you stomp your foot, and then you go back and test again. From an awareness perspective, that's where I started to learn what was going on with the other leg, because you stomp your foot, your leg comes up, and then all of a sudden you fall over. You did lose the integrity of what was going on in the system. So being really aware of what's happening in awareness on the other leg. And I think that's a value of being online too, is what are some of the other cues that you have that you could be watching for? So even though the muscle might hold, what happened in order for them to hold? All of a sudden you see their head turn. It's like, why did their head turn?
That is true what you say, but I just think about Touch for Health one. When somebody comes, has no clue at all, hears about, wow, Touch for Health, with acupressure you can do something, you can improve your health, and then you go into this direction. I think they are just overwhelmed. It's my inner feeling.
That's why I think if it's approached from an awareness perspective, of level 1 is about building awareness.
Yeah.
And you may not get all 14 muscles well. Maybe you will, maybe you won't, but it won't matter, because when you do level 2, those 14 muscles are just going to be like nothing as you add the next 14, because that's our experience all the time, right? But if you set it up that way, we're just level 1, just gaining awareness, understanding when integrity is there and when integrity is not. And level 2 it solidifies. Then that muscle monitoring becomes a little bit more pronounced.
Yeah.
And then, and I know Adele and Tanya know this from Chi Integration, all those other tools, the goal setting, the awareness, the switches, the pre-checks, the hydration, all of that to me has more value than those 14 muscles.
Mhm.
So if you do the 14 muscles and you start to raise awareness about muscles related to organ systems and meridians, but it's the other stuff, how easy you can change. And then what's your awareness about it? And then when you get to level 2, you can dive in a bit more. Adele,
Yeah.
anything?
I think
Go
it
ahead,
grows
Adele.
over time. And it also depends on why you signed up for the class. Like, did you sign up for the class as a healer? Or did you sign up for the class to work on your body? My experience of Touch for Health is every time I signed up for Touch for Health, I would have something in my body come up that needed attention.
Yes.
That is what I think too. That is why the students come to Touch for Health. They have some little issues, some little problems, and want to learn about how to fix it.
Well, it wasn't so much that I had that awareness. It was more that I'd sign up and then my eye would act up, or my ears would act up, or my, knee would act up. It was more of my body going, oh, you're going to go to Touch for Health? Well, I'd like you to pay attention to this issue. And I think the awareness comes from moving beyond the issue to looking at the body as a whole system. If that makes sense. What do you think, Adele? Acupuncturist?
Yeah, that makes sense. What I was gonna say was that what I find easy in terms of muscle testing that I learned actually in Body Talk is, well, when I'm working on a patient, the easiest way for me to test them is when they're lying on their back and their hand is like this, and I'm pulling up on their hand. So this is my yes, and this is no. So if their hand doesn't move, this is no. So you could apply the same thing on yourself. I find that's easy, when I'm doing it on somebody else. Maybe not so much to teach somebody to do it, but I find that's easiest because the hand just doesn't move. So you're not focusing on how much pressure you're pushing down. Like, it's like it moves up or it doesn't.
Yeah. So you've taken the idea of the muscle testing position out.
Right. Yeah. I find for me that's more accurate. Maybe it's just because I'm used to it, but yeah.
And then the thing about Touch for Health would be, because we have those different positions and we know that they link up to those different systems, being able to access information from those systems.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think that gets lost when we all go, it would just be easier with that indicator muscle, just go to town, do, right? Because you can get everything off that one muscle. But when you actually go into the system and then talk within the system to the muscles related to it, that's what Touch for Health gives us
Right.
over other systems. I don't think that's emphasized enough when we're doing Touch for Health, because I think everybody's so lost in trying to remember all the muscles and where do they belong and how do they fit. But that curiosity of how much information can we get from within a system.
Yeah.
But what Denise said yesterday, I really picked up on it. So she did this awareness too, how it's the muscle feeling. And then she did the balancing with the acupressure points, with the neurolymphatic acupressure points and the neurovascular acupressure points. And then there was the difference. And I think if I have a student who wants to explore or to experience that a shift is there, that would be a good idea to do the balance immediately then, like pick as you go. I
And
think
then
that-
using that awareness.
yeah, using that awareness, yeah. That's a good help. So that they are aware that there is a shift in the body.
Yep. Um, and then I've appreciated from Tai Chi the idea of integration. So when we're checking into each of those systems, we have an isolation that we're making, and we're monitoring that isolation. But to go back afterwards and find out, how do you turn with all the muscles engaged over before? Because you might not have had that, you know. And yes, I was here, but then what happens to that if you roll it? What happens if you raise it? What with all the other muscles? What do you start to notice? And then how it integrates, which is really cross crawls in a slightly different way, because cross crawl is how you've integrated everything. Well, that's a big can of worms.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Adele. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to head out pretty soon. It's been a long day online for me.
Yeah. Thank you, though, for your feedback. That's great.
Thank you, yes.
So,
Awesome.
take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Okay. Talk to you soon, Tanya.
Yes, so it's a can of worm, and it's not an easy answer. It's just experience, what you develop.
And I think too, the students, right? Because if they are people that came in just to take care of their own health, they don't have a background at all, then, you know, back up, because the muscle monitoring isn't going to be as important as all those other little exercises. And then if it is people who are working with clients, then, you know, you're going to have to dive in a bit more and really emphasize that space. But you at least have the freedom of that.
Mm-hmm. And then I think they need a volunteer for testing too. So yeah, they need, it's not only that they do it by themselves, they need a volunteer too to test.
Yeah, definitely. And at least for standing, if it's a level 1 and they're people who don't have massage tables. But if they're level 1s and they are clinicians or facilitators that do have massage tables, then being able to spend more time on the lying down opportunity.
Yeah, that is Touchbarhealth 4. No? I do lying down only in Touchbarhealth 4.
Oh, not in 1?
No, that was earlier, Michelle. That is not anymore.
Oh,
You have level 1, 2, 3 standing and level 4 laying down.
really?
Mm-hmm. That has changed. I don't know when it has changed. I cannot tell you, but the reason was that quite a few students said, we don't have a massage table and we don't want to spend the money for a massage table. Can it not be opposite, that the standing positions from Touchbarhealth 4 comes to Touchbarhealth 1 and 2 and 3, and the laying position comes into Touchbarhealth 4?
That makes it easier.
Yeah, that I don't know when it was, but I needed to change because I was teaching laying down from Touchbarhealth 1 too. And then, yeah, I don't know when it changed.
Okay. That wouldn't really matter either. Because in the end, if they got to 4,
It's true. Yeah.
yeah.
So what I have on my chart, I have the standing and I have the laying position of the 14 muscles, right? And my
Yeah.
students get this chart. Yeah,
So they're seeing it anyway.
and they see it anyway, right?
Yeah. Okay. So do you think that that makes it clear as mud? Do you think that's enough for you to do a level 1?
Oh, yes. It was really a good experience, especially with the swaying. I can integrate it. I need to say, oh, I taught many things with outside of Touch for Health when I had them in class, and I always said, not Touch for Health, just to let you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I just find so many people are shut off that they don't even know how to listen. If the only way they listen is that loud pain.
Mm.
That's when they start listening. But anything prior to that, they just don't know how to listen.
They are so busy in life, the body is secondary.
Yeah. And then the person I had for a conversation this week, who was a doctor and a homeopath, she just answered all of the pieces. When I said, how is it that you're standing on your feet? What do you notice about the 5 pads of the toes? And her answer was, well, I know they're all there because I'm feeling good. And I said, that's not what I asked you. But she had no idea how to break it down because a physician doesn't know that. If it doesn't have a pain in it, it's good.
Yeah. I have now a client who is so a talker. She has no body awareness. It is just, she feels it feels good, right? And is talking, and I interrupt her constantly and concentrate on this organ and concentrate on this and this. Yeah, everything is fine. But she likes it and she comes. So what can I say?
Colleen, any other thoughts that you have?
Probably going slow is going to be the big thing, because I know in person, like you said, there was so much to absorb that it can be overwhelming. So online, slow and easy, stopping for time for questions and feedback. That's just from me teaching online. That's what we discovered, is we had to add a lot more specific time to stop and let questions happen, because people weren't giving us enough feedback. They were just holding their questions to themselves. So
Okay.
that helped.
So when you teach online, how many hours do you teach maximum? 3 hours or 4 hours maximum?
We do 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. with an hour break for lunch.
Yeah, that I teach courses too, but I thought with Touch for Health, maybe 4 hours once and then 4 hours again. Because it's overwhelming, right? It's a new
Yep.
stuff. It's, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. You're making the brain work, that's for sure.
Well, and you're also, particularly if you're working just by yourselves, right? It's not, here's the exercise, go and work with somebody and you trade off on each other. It's,
Yeah.
you're working on yourself, you make a correction on yourself. Now your body changes and you're trying to learn the material at the same time as your body's making all those changes. So to do an 8-hour block, is it fair to do that?
I wouldn't, not for Touch for Health.
No, I wouldn't either. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And we have the freedom online that you can easily do once a week the same 2-hour block or 4-hour block, and everybody just gets into the rhythm of that. But then they have a whole week of processing all the changes that happen for them.
Or every 3 or 4 days, because a week you might have forgotten. Like if
Yeah.
you're not practicing it, it's gone until you get it into more of a routine or integrated. I don't want to wait too long, especially if you're doing shorter. Shorter is good, but more often, I would say, than
If
Thank
you're
you
doing
for
2-hour
letting us
blocks
know.
twice a week.
yeah. Yeah,
And you have 1 month of that.
Yeah,
sure.
I would say that.
That I
mm,
don't know.
Which is a bit of a commitment, you know, if you have things that you like to do in the evenings, you know,
Mhm.
but at the same time, it
Would you
drizzles
bring
it.
in, would you ask them to bring in a person they can work on
I would ask them.
later on?
Yeah,
I think not the first time when we meet,
No,
but the second time I would ask them, I think, because the first time I would do maybe 1 or 2 methods, a lot of talking, a lot of information. And
Yeah.
then the second time I would ask, and yeah, and maybe only 2 hours. So 1 to 2 methods, and then
Mhm.
practicing.
Yeah.
What do you think, Michelle?
And if
So
you
when it-
teach for two,
go
and
ahead.
if you teach for those 2 hours, but say you stay online for half an hour while they do practice and you could ask questions or however you want to arrange that. But I think that's important is that you're available because questions are going to come up as soon as you're not there.
That's
And it would be valuable to have, I'm just thinking about, you know, we're thinking about the person learning it. But when you ask the buddy to come in, perhaps it is that 2 people sign up to take the class. And instead of having an individual price, you actually have a price for 2. Because that person who's going to be the buddy is going to learn all the material just because they're sitting there waiting,
Right.
right?
Yeah. And then they support one another. That's excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, because
And
then
then right? It's not like, oh, I can't show up to help you because something else better came along, at least if they're committed to do it.
yeah. So maybe the approach needs to be slightly different. Yeah.
But if we teach online, that maybe is not possible because they would need to be at the same town or at the same city, right? They would meet in person. So you don't know.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
people
Perhaps,
work on, they have to be with you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I misunderstood. Now, can you repeat it, please?
If you're having someone to practice on, they have to be in the same room with you to do so.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is, but if the person would sign up, I don't know, right? So that 2 people have touch for health.
That's what I'm saying. Perhaps we need to look at this in a different paradigm instead of what it has been, which is I'm really interested in taking Touch for Health. I'm going to sign up. Into I'm going to take Touch for Health online, and the way that it works is 2 people sign up. And then if you have a reduced rate because it's 2 people, but you then now instead of 1 student, you have 2 students, but then you also have that longevity of you can balance on each other. You can make a commitment once a week to get together, work through the material. And if they both like what they're doing, then hopefully they'll continue to level 2.
Yes. But then I would need to ask the student who wants to take Touch for Health if she has a friend or he has a friend or a neighbor who would be interested to take it too, and then she would get a reduced rate.
Well, or you do 1 price.
Or 1 price, yeah.
1 price and 2 people come.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah. That's just a little bit different than when you can sign up for a class and you go down to the hall and you see all your neighbors anyway. But it doesn't quite work the same way online. So, yeah. That's an interesting way of thinking about it. But I think we would have much more longevity out of it and people who actually would do the work.
Yeah, because you're doubling your numbers right from the start. And
And
they
you
could
have
don't live together, take turns going to each other's house or whatever, right? They have that little bit of,
Exactly.
flexi-
They have, they want to practice and they go just to the neighbor or to the friend or so. It's not so
Yeah.
far away.
or if they have somebody who's not real mobile, they can take their laptop to them. Like it's awesome to have all that flexibility and as they, especially as they grow, they might want to have somebody different who has more challenges or just different body to practice on, right? So.
Yeah.
And it could be by level 3, you have to have a different partner. So if those 2 people decide they're going to continue, they would have to go find
A different
Mhm.
partner.
somebody to come in and that case, be a surrogate,
Mm.
to be able to work with
Yeah.
them, because they wouldn't have level 1 and 2. But there's fewer people make it to 3 and 4. So
Yeah.
level 1 and 2 is, if you could get
Okay.
people in for that, that would be great. Because that's
And
the,
then by level, you just be charging them for one person, knowing that they have to find one or more people to practice on.
yeah. And maybe it is that each class, they need to bring a different person in so they get the experience of the challenges that come with different people.
Yes, exactly. Different
Mhm.
people.
But at level 3 and 4, people would be prepared to have that
Yes.
depth in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Okay.
Work cut out for you.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you spent some time with Christine. Like I took my teacher training at the same time she did. So that's the last time I really worked with her, aside from seeing her, on some meetings and stuff. So I don't get to work with her, but yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a long
for attending. It was really helpful.
Oh, I'm glad.
And your eyes are feeling better?
Well, the sun's gone around, so it's
Perfect.
not glaring in my face anymore. It's, yeah.
Perfect. Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. And were the results good? Do you know, or they didn't tell you yet?
Oh yeah, everything's good. Same as last year. It's all just leave it be, right? Just hanging on to what's normal for me is for as long as possible is good.
Awesome. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. Well, shall we leave
Thank
it
you
there?
so much for organizing this meeting, Michelle.
Mhm. Awesome. So maybe Helga, you and I can talk a little bit further about details in setting up, and then what we might want to do from there, and we can both be pitching out to see what.
What I just think that I will do it with my husband and I will videotape it. Just how the movement is that I don't have. I just have the test. How the movement is, how it feels. And I think I will ask my husband if he we have summer, we can do it in the garden, right? We don't have to do it inside. Do videotaping and then I do short, I just cut the video then in small pieces and show it then during class. I think that I will do.
So that you wouldn't have to have somebody there. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I have nobody here when I teach,
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
right? So I need to have a lot of material that they understand. I talk a lot, I will talk a lot, but that they see. And when I work with my husband and show the movements and show this video, then they have an idea and then they can practice and I can talk with them, go through each step with them. I think I will do that.
Sweet. One step closer.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And my former student is so excited, and I asked her already when she has time, which months I would be available for her. So I made it very good for her, so
Yeah.
that she can attend.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to go and wash the sand off my feet.
Okay, and I start to cook dinner. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. Thank you, Colleen, for coming, and you've got
You
lots of
bet.
valuable input. Love it. Okay.
Okay,
Bye.
night.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.